Happy Thursday, August 6, 2026. Today we're digging into one of the biggest shifts quietly reshaping the tech industry, the race to own everything AI touches, from the infrastructure underneath it, to the agents running on top of it, to the engineers making it all work inside your company. A lot of moving pieces today, so let's get into it. First up, Meta is doing something that would have seemed strange just 3 years ago. The company that built its empire selling ads is now trying to sell you cloud computing. Meta confirmed it will offer excess AI computing capacity to enterprise customers, essentially renting out the spare horsepower from its massive data center network to businesses that need it. Think of it like a hotel that's already built thousands of rooms and realizes it can rent out the ones it isn't using. Except the hotel cost $145 billion to build. Meta has been pouring money into AI infrastructure at a scale most people don't fully appreciate, and now, rather than let that capacity sit idle, they're turning it into a second revenue engine. Here's where it gets interesting. Meta is now competing directly with Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud, the three companies that have dominated enterprise infrastructure for over a decade. That's not a minor pivot. That's Meta walking into the most fiercely defended territory in all of tech. And they're not arriving empty-handed. They have the compute, they have the models, and they're packaging AI business agents alongside the infrastructure, so enterprise customers can potentially buy the cloud capacity and the AI tools that run on it from a single vendor. My take: this is a smart play and a risky one at the same time. The hyperscalers have years of trust, security certifications, and enterprise relationships that Meta simply doesn't have yet. But Meta has one thing the others don't: a dataset of human behavior at civilizational scale. If they can translate that into genuinely differentiated AI products for enterprise, they won't need to win on infrastructure alone. Watch for enterprise procurement teams starting to evaluate Meta on two separate tracks: the ad platform they already use, and the cloud vendor they might use next. Next, while Meta is pushing into cloud, the companies that already own it are spending billions just to help enterprises figure out how to actually use AI. And this is the part nobody talks about. It's one thing to have access to a powerful AI model. It's another thing entirely to embed it into the workflows of a 50,000-person company with 30-year-old legacy systems, compliance requirements, and employees who don't know where to start. That gap, between capability and deployment, is turning into its own massive industry. Microsoft announced it's putting $2.5 billion into what it's calling the Microsoft Frontier Company, essentially an army of 6,000 engineers who embed directly inside customer operations to stand up AI systems. AWS followed with a $1 billion forward-deployed engineering hub of its own. Google is actively hiring for the same model. Even Accenture, Deloitte, Anthropic, and OpenAI are all racing to build out this kind of hands-on deployment capability. The model has a name: forward-deployed engineering. And it was pioneered by Palantir, which has been sending engineers directly into the trenches of government and enterprise clients for years. The rest of the industry is now copying the playbook at massive scale. Think about it this way: it's like buying a highly sophisticated piece of industrial equipment and discovering that operating it actually requires a specialist to live on site for the first 6 months. The AI vendors have realized the sale doesn't end at the contract. The real value, and the real stickiness, comes from embedding so deeply into a customer's operations that switching becomes almost unthinkable. The signal here is important. We are past the experimentation phase. Boards and CEOs are now demanding that AI investments show measurable returns, and that pressure is flowing down to IT leaders who are scrambling to deliver. The companies that help enterprises bridge that gap fastest are going to accumulate advantages that compound for years. Now this one is interesting, because it reframes something we interact with every day. The AI super app race is heating up, and the goal is something genuinely ambitious: one interface that handles search, content creation, shopping, scheduling, financial services, and personal assistance, all in one place. Chat in China proved the model works. One app, hundreds of millions of users, everything from messaging to mobile payments to many programs running inside it. OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft are all now explicitly building toward this vision for the Western market. The difference is they're layering in AI at the foundation level, not as a feature but as the operating system of the whole experience. Here's what makes this a genuinely high-stakes battle. Whoever owns the super app owns the relationship. Right now, Google owns search intent. Meta owns social attention. Amazon owns purchase intent. A super app, done right, collapses all of those into one surface. And once a user's entire digital life runs through a single AI-powered interface, the switching cost becomes enormous. The risk is real too. Regulators in the EU and increasingly in the US are already watching platform consolidation closely. A single app that handles your shopping, your banking, your news, and your work productivity is a privacy and competition regulator's nightmare. And this is the part nobody talks about. The super app model concentrates behavioral data to a degree that makes current ad targeting look quaint. Every query, every purchase, every calendar event, every financial transaction, flowing through one AI that learns from all of it. That's either the most useful product ever built, or the most powerful surveillance instrument ever created by a private company. Possibly both. Alright, moving on to something that quietly illustrates how all of this is landing in the real world, and it involves business travel, of all things. Online booking tools, the platforms that corporate employees use to book flights, hotels, and ground transportation, are undergoing a fundamental redesign. And the reason tells you something real about how work has changed. A few years ago, employees lived inside Microsoft Office and email. A standalone booking portal made sense. You'd open a browser tab, book your trip, close it, get back to work. But now the average employee receives 153 Microsoft Teams notifications a day. The workflow has moved. People live inside Teams, inside Slack, inside their collaboration tools. The booking experience has to meet them there. Companies like Amadeus with its Citric Easy platform and FCM are now building deep integrations directly into Teams and Slack so that travel booking becomes part of the communication flow rather than a separate task. And here's where it gets interesting, because AI is changing what booking even means. Rather than a form you fill out, it becomes a conversation you have. You tell the agent your travel policy, your preferences, your schedule constraints, and it handles the rest. Think about it this way: the best corporate travel manager you ever had didn't hand you a website. They asked you questions, knew your preferences, and came back with options. AI-powered booking agents embedded in your daily tools are trying to recreate exactly that experience, at scale, for every employee, automatically. The broader lesson here isn't really about travel. It's about where AI meets the grain of how people actually work. The tools that win will be the ones that show up inside existing workflows rather than asking users to change their behavior. That principle applies everywhere, from booking a flight to writing a contract to resolving a customer support ticket. Finally, let's zoom out for a moment to the LLM market itself, because the numbers tell a story. The large language model market is maturing fast. Cloud-based deployment is expected to capture 64% of the market in 2026. API-based access, where companies pay per call rather than running their own models, leads with 52% share. The competitive field includes OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Microsoft, Meta, AWS, Mistral, Cohere, and Alibaba Cloud, among others. But here's the tension at the heart of all of it: unreliable outputs and difficult evaluation are still the primary blockers to wider enterprise adoption. Companies can run a demo that looks extraordinary. Deploying that same system in an accountable business process, one where an error costs money or triggers a compliance violation, is a completely different challenge. That gap between impressive and dependable is where the next phase of competition is being fought. The companies that close that gap first, not just on model quality, but on evaluation tooling, reliability guarantees, and auditability, are the ones that will own the enterprise layer. And the enterprise layer is where the real, durable revenue is. What connects today's stories is actually a single pressure that runs underneath all of them: capability arrived faster than trust. The models exist. The infrastructure exists. The use cases are obvious. What's missing is the reliability, the integration, and the human expertise to make AI work in conditions where failure has real consequences. Every story today: Meta entering cloud, hyperscalers deploying thousands of engineers, booking tools meeting users where they work. The LLM reliability gap is a different response to the same underlying challenge. Powerful tools without trust are just expensive experiments. Tomorrow on Neel's Daily, we're shifting to science and cosmos, space, biotech, physics, and the ideas reshaping how we understand the universe. This is Neel's Daily. See you tomorrow.